It's been simmering away, but now the heat is being turned up by employer groups, pushing for changes to the government's industrial laws. The restaurant industry has fired the first shot in what unions claim is an orchestrated campaign to return to the coalition policy of work choices. Restaurant owners claim high wages and inflexible conditions are forcing businesses to close. But the government and the unions say the future of the industry shouldn't be built by cutting people's wages. Gavin Fang reports.
Cafe View is a cafe, a casual cafe offering coffees, sandwiches, soups, salads, that type of offering. So very, very much geared to people working in the area, people coming past for a casual style lunch.
Oh, that looks yummy. Thank you, darling.
At Melbourne's Cafe View, the lunchtime rush is winding down. The cafe is part of a successful group that employs about 225 restaurant staff. But General Manager Anna Augustine says these days there's no easy meal in the restaurant industry.
The award is very complex. There are a lot of pitfalls for restaurants to unravel, I suppose. With the award, it can be difficult to get correct advice. So actually sticking to the award is a concern for restaurateurs, and the fines and the repercussions of not meeting those are the sorts of things that keep operators awake at night.
60 minutes starts.
Celebrity chef George Columbaris stirred the pot this week with claims wait staff are overpaid. Away from the TV screen, Mr Columbaris makes a living from a string of successful restaurants. He's complained about having to pay weekend waiters up to $40 an hour, above what the unions say is the rate for the highest paid workers in the industry.
The fact is that employees in restaurants and the hospitality industry generally are quite low paid. They're minimum wage workers. They depend on penalty rates to make a reasonable living.
I think George Columbaris individually is a very impressive entrepreneur. His restaurants are very good, but I don't believe that the future of the industry relies on cutting people's wages. The loading on a Sunday is only 50%. It's only one day in the week. It's an important day.
But the Restaurant and Catering Association, that claims to represent about 7,000 employers, says the celebrity chef was right. It says high wage costs are hurting the industry, and it wants the government's better off overall test, which ensures that any wage agreement must be better than the award, to be scrapped.
Really what we're looking for is some way of getting flexibility for what we call preferred hours. So if the employee says that they'd like to work Friday to Sunday, that becomes their ordinary days during the week, and so that they can actually be paid ordinary rates, not penalty rates of loadings of up to 50%.
Greg Parks says the Fair Work laws are sending businesses to the wall, although at this point the evidence is only anecdotal.
We're waiting on ABS statistics at the moment that will show that the amount of exits from the industry is rising, and we have anecdotal evidence of that at the moment, but once we get that information we'll be putting that to the Fair Work review panel so that they can understand what's happening, or the impact to the industry.
Those that have come forward, in fact, are very profitable and are expanding. The Restaurant and Caterers Association, their employer organisation, released a statement yesterday which actually shows their real agenda, which is about reducing conditions of employment, cutting take-home pay, taking away protections for workers and returning to work choices through things like individual contracts.
All we want
is fair pay for fair work.
It's just over 2 years since the government replaced work choices with its Fair Work Act. A review of the laws was initiated last year. It's due to report back by the end of May.
It's neither a sign of a lack of confidence or a desire for wholesale change, but we did commit to review the system. We are a smart enough government to want to hear the views of people, to make sure that everyone feels that the current system is delivering on the objectives, which include fairness and productivity.
But industrial relations law expert Professor Andrew Stewart says employers have legitimate concerns.
We're currently in the middle of a very complex transition from the old award system, which was much more patchwork and chaotic, to the modern award system. That transition won't be completed until the middle of 2014. But even then, we're still going to see employers, particularly small employers, really struggling to deal with the fact that there are so many different rates for work performed at so many different times by people of different ages, casuals, non-casuals.
Professor Stewart says industry groups have probably given up on getting major changes out of the government, but not the coalition.
What the employer groups are doing at the moment is, if you like, they're running a two-pronged campaign. One is to try and persuade Fair Work Australia to make the changes within the existing legislation. The second one is to try and get the legislation changed so that employers themselves can simplify award conditions by offering simplified but lower pay agreements. That latter part is something that the government, Labor, is certainly not going to be prepared to accede to, but the coalition might.
You can't sack me.
The coalition is still without a comprehensive policy to replace work choices, but opposition workplace relations spokesman Erica Betts says it doesn't favour scrapping the better off overall test. Beyond that, industry groups will have to keep waiting for details.
There are people that would like us to have a policy but announced as soon as possible, and what I can assure them is that we as a coalition will be announcing our policy at the right time, but I believe that the coalition and indeed the government should inform itself about the matters that are raised in the Fair Work Act review.
And as for the Liberal Party industrial relations policy, the alternative government of Australia, their industrial relations policy is in the witness protection program. We can't find it, they won't say it.
It's unlikely to be a hot topic of polite lunchtime conversation, but employers say restaurant patrons may soon be affected by the industrial relations laws. Anna Augustine says without changes to the Fair Work laws, jobs will be lost and consumers may have to swallow higher prices.
The only option in industry is going to be to make changes, and that's going to be closing down on Sundays, on public holidays, and quite possibly increasing prices. That is another big issue. Whilst nobody feels that the marketplace will sustain a price rise, that may be the last option.
Gavin Fang reporting there.